Better than ever, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And so, another week, another cornerback with whom Odell Beckham Jr. has managed to engage in mortal combat. It's become as though he and the man guarding him are going into the Coliseum and asking if we're not all entertained, which is fine, except that all of his teammates are trying to win a football game. Oh, by the way, the Minnesota Vikings won last night on Monday Night Football. They're 4-0, but Golic, Odell continues to be the story for his increasingly questionable behavior.
Yeah, he does. Listen, we talked about this before with the on-the-sideline theatrics where he wasn't penalized on the field, and he's, hitting kicking nets and such, and as I said in that video, it didn't look like any teammates were reacting at all, but Eli ends up talking to him. And as I said, with a guy like that, how does he affect the team? In what way you and the better you are, that this is not rocket science either, the more leeway you're given. Especially, I would say, more for things on the field if they're done in an aggressive way on the field. A great pass rusher gets called for a few offsides, right? You're willing to live with some things because of the play you get. So would you be willing to live with maybe a couple of offensive pass interference, a couple of push-offs from Odell Beckham if that were the case? You would, because it's within the confines of the game. But, we know the thing that went on with Norman last year was ridiculous, and now you're getting flagged on the field for unsportsmanlike conduct. You could have gotten tossed for bumping an official we'll get into, but he didn't. So let's just stick with what actually happened, is the fact that he got flagged on the field. So you hurt your team when you shoot your mouth off and you do something like that to get a flag. Now you've crossed over. So he has, you heard Eli say right in the open there, and Eli is 100% right. He has put himself in the position where the eyes are on him, and he did that to himself. He loaded all this on his shoulders. Now, will he be able to carry it? That's the thing. Will he be able to carry what he is? And nobody else did it but him. And again, as I said, you can go to a line because you don't want to completely take emotion out. But when you start hurting the team, getting dumb penalties, taking yourself out of the game, then where it's hurting the team, then you better figure that out. You better figure that out because you're the only one who loaded all that weight on your shoulders, and you're the one that has to deal with it. So you better deal with it like a professional and not have to have your teammates come babysit you more and more as that seems to be happening.
See, the way that he is acting on the field now leaves a couple of possibilities. One is he recognizes what he's doing and he just doesn't care.
Yep.
Two is he's not able to control himself, that he plays on that board. All of you guys who play football play sort of on that line,
right.
Where one more step over it and you sort of lose control of your emotions, but you know how to not do it. He's not able to do it.
He's not.
I guess there are other options too, but those seem like the most obvious ones. One is he knows what he's doing and just doesn't care, and the other is he's just not able to control himself. I thought I had a third option, but now I can't think of what it was.
Is that A2 and then you don't know?
But I would put it in the form of a question. Is your sense, and I understand that I'm just asking you to guess, do you think he realizes that Julio Jones doesn't do this?
Let me put it
Antonio
this way.
Brown doesn't do this.
I'm not inside his head, but if a player is getting flags for taunting or doing things where at some point there has to be a self-realization that, you have teammates having to come to you. You get a flag on the field. You could get other flags on the field. Every time you get challenged, you think you have to fight. Odell, let me just fill you in. You're not the toughest guy on the field. Every single time someone gets in your face, you don't have to shove them and say, I'm a man, don't disrespect me. You don't have to do that. It's not how the game is played. Everybody on the football field is tough. You're not tougher than anybody else. You're all tough out on the football field. You don't have to try and show your bravado every single play. It's wasted energy, and what it does is it puts a light on you. And can you handle the light? And where we are now, he struggles to handle the light because now, was he not on the same page with Eli? You got a season low, 3 catches for 23 yards or whatever it was.
Yeah.
A low of yardage. And you know what? Guys are going to take shots at you. You're not the biggest receiver in the league, and you have a mouth on you. So you know what guys are going to do? They're going to hit you. And you know what? Eli is right. You brought it on yourself. And if I were playing against you, listen, the DBs I know and I played with, are you kidding me? They would have aggravated the living heck out of him to try and get a reaction. And that's what you're going to do. So now you're getting the reaction. And as I said, if it doesn't cost you, if you're not losing your mind, if you're not getting penalties, okay, because, oh, by the way, you are a great player. So you are willing to put up with some things. You'd rather not. You'd rather have the Julio Jones approach, the Antonio Brown approach, where you're just, destroying teams and not getting into it with anybody and getting penalties. So he has to decide at some point. You have to look in the mirror and say, is what I'm doing, because one thing he said, and I liked it, he said, this isn't one-on-one, we lose 11 on 11. Okay, at some point, there has to be the self-awareness of what am I bringing to the team. You're bringing to the team great talent. There's no question about that you have great talent. But are you hurting the team in other ways? And if the answer is yes, then, I mean, come on. If you don't have the self-awareness to say, I need to stop with the theatrics and the antics and help this team any way I can by not hurting this team. He helps the team by catching passes, catching touchdowns, though that hasn't happened this year, but we know it will. But you hurt the team with your theatrics and your antics. He has to be the one to realize that. If somebody has to sit him down and tell him, okay, I get it, but man, if it isn't registering in his head, that's obviously on him.
Here's the thing. You say that he said, and it's, again, what people say is sometimes easy to ignore when their actions don't line up with their words. So he said we lose 11 on 11, but he plays like he's playing one-on-one.
Yes, he does.
And the play that really bothers me is he gets the penalty on the sideline.
Yeah.
Now, I did think it was a little bit of a late chuck out of bounds there.
I agree.
I understood why he was mad, but he obviously took it too far. He bumps the official, doesn't get called for that, does get called for taunting. They announced to the stadium and the world that if he gets one more such penalty, he's getting thrown out. What feels like 15 seconds later, he is initiating this huge hit on the sideline out of bounds. Now, no flag is thrown, and correctly so, but it is the opposite of what he should be doing in that situation. So it is frustrating to watch as one who doesn't really have an emotional stake in the game, but I do enjoy watching him play because he's so dynamically talented.
Yes,
it's ridiculous.
Yes, he is.
But it is starting to become, that's why I phrased it, increasingly frustrating to watch him play, because you would think, especially after last week, that you would start to get it, and it feels like it's going in the opposite direction.
It does. He feels it is a challenge every play. It is a battle every single play, but where he takes it to, sometimes crosses the line, and then it hurts your team. But as I will continue to say, he's a great player, and so you let it go for a little bit, and you let it go to the point where he is getting flagged. He got a flag last night. That will hurt the team, but it's not like, at least at this point, you're not taking him off the field. You know what? You're not saying, Odell, sit down, because, oh, by the way, you're losing the game and you need him on the field.
Well, that's exactly what happened last year in the Norman game. Was Coughlin never took him off the field. At the end of the day, I understand that he's the best player on the field.
Yeah.
I understand that he's probably one of the 3 or 4 best players in the whole league. But you've said to me 8 million times the only message that football players or any athletes really understand is having their playing time taken away.
Very true.
So, but the problem with that is, as I'm saying that, I'm realizing he got suspended for 2 games last year, and it still hasn't changed anything.
Right.
So I'm not sure what does get through to this guy. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Last year, over 3 million drivers switched to Progressive. Call and click today. Find out if you could save. Let's play you some of the sound. Here's the Eli soundbite that you were talking about, where Eli Manning has mastered the art of saying nothing. He has gone to the Derek Jeter school of saying nothing publicly and still making a lot of money in endorsements. But this is about as pointed as Eli will get as he discusses Odell Beckham.
He's got to be aware. People are looking for him, and he's got to play smart, and he just can't afford to do anything. They're going to call him. He's kind of brought that upon himself, so he's got to realize that. He just can't afford to have penalties. So, especially ones that are preventable.
And listen, he's 100% right. Now, whether you want him saying that publicly or not, is another question. There are those that would say, you know what, let's not hear that publicly. Let's do that behind closed doors. Either way, what that also shows is the amount of frustration.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of frustration that's like, you just want to take him and grab him by the shoulder and say, dude, you are so talented And some of this stuff you're doing is so unnecessary. Now, there is the side of us that said maybe this is what makes him great, is that emotion. But that doesn't mean you can't harness the emotion. When the emotion starts hurting the team, then you're starting to, unfortunately, tip the scales, which are so much in your favor because of your talent. You start to tip the scales the other way a bit.
Quick correction, he was only suspended 1 game last year, not 2, my mistake. But the point remains
right. Yes.
that we were all somewhat critical of Tom Coughlin for not taking him off the field in the Carolina game, and he said, look, I'm trying to win the game.
That's exactly right.
And I get it.
At the end of the day, you say, I got to show him, let's sit him, maybe he'll learn. And, oh, by the way, he's the best player on our team.
Well, so now, you're sort of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yes.
Because if you don't take him off the field, then nothing else changes. And Eli making the comment to your point about would you rather hear that behind closed doors, no one gets that more than Eli gets that.
I know.
He has navigated the waters of being the quarterback of a New York
100%.
Football team extraordinarily well.
Yes, he has.
So if he's saying that publicly, then it's gotten to that level. Right. And then Odell Beckham said a lot of things after the game last night. As the morning goes on, we'll play you all of them. Mm-hmm. Many of them, both of us thought were the right thing to say. Mm-hmm. So, of course, in typical media fashion, we're leading with the one that we didn't like.
But the point of it is just like on the field, he at some point he'll just go too far.
Yeah, this is where he went too far.
It's just my fault. That's all I look at it as. It's my fault. There's whatever you want to call it. I just have to understand. If I sneeze the wrong way, it'll be a flag. It'll be a fine. If I tie my shoe the wrong way, it might be a fine or a flag. It is what it is. You have to understand that. As tough as it is to understand that for a 23-year-old who has been blessed with a lot, God has gifted me with an amazing amount of ability, amazing amount of everything, and just it seems like it's all working against you.
So there it is. There it is. He pulled out the woe is me card.
Yeah.
He pulled out one of the great receivers in our game, one of the great players in our game, pulled out the woe is me card. That's a shame because everything he's talking about, he just like getting under the bar to do a squat, right? You get under that bar and you lift that weight up. All that weight on that bar, Odell, is your fault. It's his fault that weight is on his shoulders. And now he has to deal with the consequences of it, and he pulled out the woe is me card. Yes, you have to be aware of all that, Odell, because of you, because of what you do, because of your actions on the field. Man, just be great. Just be great. I can't even begin. It's tough for me to even comment on it because he is so far past the talent, A, that I ever had, and B, quite honestly, 98% of the guys in the league have right now with his talent. It's so great that why he wants to throw all of it on himself. And let me tell you, every single player that gives you an extra shot, every single player that gets in your face, every single player that shoves you, they're doing it because of your actions. That's why they're doing it. If you were Julio Jones, if you were Antonio Brown, you wouldn't get any of that. They'd be trying to lay the wood to you, don't get me wrong, but they wouldn't be trying to do a little bit extra to unnerve them because they don't get unnerved. You get unnerved.
That was exactly what I was going to ask you. They're not doing that because they're mad at him or don't like him or because he's flashy and gets the attention.
Oh, no.
They're doing it because they recognize it gets under his skin and it takes him out of his game.
I tell the story over and over and over again of Ron Heller, my teammate who I played against when he was at Penn State and I was at Notre Dame. We played together in Philly. We played together in Miami. I just watched him time after time against a hot-headed D lineman aggravate him, hit him a little late, shove him, give him an extra push, and then put his hands at his side and watch the dummy punch him or shove him or hit him and get a flag and then laugh and go back to the huddle. That's what happens. If you have that reputation, you're going to get tested all the time. And you have to be the one that deals better with it.
Herman Edwards is on his way in our studio. I cannot wait to hear what he has to say about all of this. Herman will be here in 15 minutes. Mike and Mike were presented by, as I mentioned, Progressive Insurance. And the guest today, Herman on the way, Ryan Clark for 2 hours. Bill O'Brien, coach of the Texans, on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, 8:30 Eastern today. Paul Feinbaum today. And if you miss anything on Mike and Mike, a reminder, you can hear any and all of the 4 hours on demand anytime you'd like in the ESPN app. Oh, by the way, the Vikings won, and they're 4-0, and their defense is phenomenal.
They are great. You know, Hembo and I were talking before the show. Is this a shift? Is this where teams can try and go? Because last year we saw it with a mediocre offense and a great defense, you can win the Super Bowl. Right now, you look at the undefeated teams. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They're the number 1 rated defense in the league. You look at the Denver Broncos. They're the number 5 defense in the league. Minnesota, by the way, is the 8th rated defense in the league. That's what numbers can show you because they're certainly playing like they're the first in the league.
And can I just quickly point out, those stats are done by yardage allowed.
Yes.
The Vikings, because here's the number that really matters, they've allowed just 50 points in 4 games. So they may be 8th in yards allowed. I understand it. I'm not saying you're wrong.
I'm with you. No.
The number that matters.
I'm getting to that.
Okay, yeah.
Philly is number 1 in points allowed. Minnesota's number 2 in points allowed. Denver is number 5. You're 1 and 2 in sacks with Denver and
How
Minnesota.
many points has Philly allowed? Oh, they only gave up 3 to the
Philly.
Steelers.
9 points a game.
Yeah.
Philly is allowed.
Unbelievable.
So, I mean, these defenses, and they're doing it now. See, what did we always say? Boy, you need that elite quarterback. So now you have Sam Bradford leading an undefeated team. And oh, by the way, the QBR rating, whatever you want to think of it, Bradford is 3rd in the league, Wentz is 6th, and Trevor Siemian is 9th. So, I mean, their quarterback rating is up there. But basically, these aren't high-level elite quarterbacks, right? I don't think I'm going out on a limb and saying that. Or offenses, yet they're efficient enough offenses but are led by your defense. So could this be a turning trend in a game that we have said is such an offensive game that if you can build that defense, and have a representative offense that you can win? Because that's what we're seeing now. And again, I'm not handing Minnesota the Super Bowl, but oh, by the way, the 3 undefeated teams have great defenses and have good offenses. And have quarterbacks that aren't going to throw for 4,000 or 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, but their defenses are tremendous, and a lot of them, gang, start right up front.
And here's what I'll tell you. I'm not taking anything away from the Eagles because they shut down Ben and company, and no one else has done that.
Yeah, that's right.
So their defense
That's the game to me that really says a lot. Yeah.
But outside of that, they played Chicago and Cleveland.
Right.
Minnesota has allowed a total of 50 points in 4 games, and in their last 3 games, they started against Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, and Eli Manning.
Yep.
So you're talking about 3 of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, 3 of, you would think, the better offenses in the NFL, and they're allowing 12 points a game. So their defense is that kind of good.
They are, and listen, before the season, I thought they were a really good defense. Did I say they were of the Denver caliber that could lead to a Super Bowl? I wasn't sure. Boy, was I proven wrong on that. Or not wrong, but I mean, I underestimated them because they are playing well enough for that. They're playing, again, I talk about, guys on that D line doing the dirty work. Denver, we know about the Von Millers, but what Derek Wolfe does. In Philly, Fletcher Cox, what he's done in the middle. Linval Joseph on the inside of that Minnesota line. Certainly, you have Roberson and Griffin rushing on the outside. Griffin leads them with 4 sacks. But with Linval Joseph, who has 3 sacks of his own, does on that inside to stop the run. I mean, that's where it starts with these teams, and they're really good in all phases. They may have the best safety in the game in Harrison Smith in the Minnesota Vikings. So it is impressive to watch it. Oh, by the way, for Eli's career, Minnesota has had his number.
Yeah.
He's played him 8 times. He's 2-6 with 5 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. 15 interceptions.
Those numbers
games.
tend to hold up, too. It's a crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously undergone, in Eli's career, multiple different iterations of who the Vikings are and who their personnel is and who their coaching staff is and everything else. And yet those things, for whatever reason, tend to hold up. And let me just add to the number I gave you a moment ago because Hembo sent me a stat to take it another step. Again, they've played against the 3 great quarterbacks consecutively. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, Eli Manning. Those 3 have combined in those games for 1 passing touchdown and 5 interceptions. Wow. 1 touchdown, 5 picks.
It's incredible.
That's how good the Viking defense is. Herman Edwards in studio breaking it all down for us in just a moment. Quickly, AL wildcard game tonight. Live on ESPN Radio. The National League is tomorrow. The Blue Jays will go with Marcus Stroman. The Orioles are going to go with Chris Tillman, so a pair of righties in this game for the right to go on and play in the American League Division Series against Texas. And people are going to start telling you, I think this team will win because I think that. How the heck does anybody know?
One game to do it all.
It is even worse than the NCAA tournament. The wild card play-in game, I have the ultimate love-hate relationship
Me too.
with.
I was just going to say the same thing.
It is both the best and the worst thing in the sport.
Yeah, listen, this is a sport that's used to series, and you're going one game to decide it all. So there is that joy of you can sit down and know this one game, you can move on or you can go home. And then the other side of it, obviously, is, wait a minute, we're used to at least a best-of-3 series, or had been in the past a bit, and now we don't even get that.
Home field advantage, by the way, to the Blue Jays, and it means nothing. Home teams are 2-6 in the wild card game. All right, we've got more on the baseball as we continue. Herman Edwards in our studio, his thoughts on Odell and everything else from last night as we get cranking up on a Tuesday with Mike and Mike after this word from Dr. Pepper. Go like ice cold. Dr. Pepper and college football go way back. Both of them were invented in the 1800s.
Yep, safe to say, as long as there's been college football, there has been Dr. Pepper. Always has been, always will be. Dr. Pepper and college football belong together like those crazy upsets and stadium flyovers, like T-shirt guns and slow-mo cams, wildcats, flea flickers, that whole thing. Having a college football gathering without Dr. Pepper is like having a whiteout game without shirts. Some things are just better together. So next time you have a tailgate, home gate, or whatever